recitation of the khutbah of today's sermon. Now it is time, my dear viewers, to go to our studio with the esteemed guest from Madina al-Munawwara, with my colleague Yasir bin Maqbool al-Sharif. Please stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين سيدنا ونبينا محمد عليه وعلى آله أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. Dear and beloved viewers, we'd like to welcome you to this live program from Medina. As usual, we have a esteemed guest, as we have today, Dr. Hussam bin Abdul Wahab Zaman, who is the chairman of the Foundations of Education Department at Taiba University. We'd like to welcome Dr. Hussam to the program. If you can give us a briefing about your specialization, your work at Taiba University.
Thank you, Dr. Yasser. My name is, as you said, Dr. Hussam Zaman. I work at Taiba University in the Department of Foundations of Education. We teach different courses about education and development, education in Saudi Arabia. So we have foundations of education generally. So this is our regular work.
Okay. So, I mean, you've been to Pittsburgh, I think. The University of Pittsburgh is where you graduated from?
Yes, I get my master's and PhD from the University of Pittsburgh in the College of Education.
Okay.
That means 5 years there.
What's the specialization that you did?
My specialization was in comparative education, policy studies, kind of educational policy studies in Department of Administration and Policy Studies in University of Pittsburgh.
Okay, great. Let's merge now into the area we want to discuss. Basically, we had the chance this year of going to Hajj together. This is something we want to reflect on. Of course, when you were sleeping about like next to each other almost. There were almost 58 people around us, and it was one of the most successful Hajj ever been before. I just wanted to remark that we want to mention some of the pros and cons about the Hajj. This was probably my first Hajj since a long time. Last time I was about like 5 or 3-year-old kid when I went for Hajj. So this is like my first experience for Hajj. Was it the same thing for you?
Yes, this is not my first Hajj, but the last time I went to Hajj was about 15 years ago. I was in high school, so it's after this long time you can consider it as first time also. So
okay. Okay, so let's talk about pros. We had the chance of going to Hajj. The Hajj was very organized. I want to mention that Hajj this year was one of the most successful Hajj since a long time. You keep hearing the news, reading the news. What do you think are the positive things about Hajj this year?
I think the organization, particularly at the Jamaat area, the good organization of that area where people go in one direction and there's no oppositing walk among Hajjis. They all walk in the same direction. This avoid the crowdness. The crowdness in the area.
So there's a flow of people in one direction.
In one direction. This is, I think, a very good. Something to see in Hajj. That there's a smooth movement of Hajj. I think it's something very good to be mentioned about this season.
What other things? We were talking about also organization. We're talking about Mina, and we're talking also about Muzdalifah and Arafah. It's a couple of stages we're talking about. Yes. Let's reflect more on the organization there. Where do you find the police? Did you find the people around you, or were you in a deserted area?
See that this surveillance camera everywhere, this security people and officers everywhere in Mina and Arafat, around the Haram in Mecca. You feel that there are many people who cares about getting this event to be successful. Also, I like the idea of if you notice that like a traffic light on the Haram gate to allow people, to tell people is it allowed now to get in or not. I think this is a very nice idea, to organize the movement around the Haram's gate. So I think this is a very good idea and a very good practice I saw in Hajj this year.
Okay, we're talking about the positive impact of Hajj generally when it comes to the point that people are involved in Hajj. I mean, we're talking about the government, the organization, the success that the government had this year in Hajj. Let's talk about the people. Did the people support what the government was trying to enforce in terms of law enforcement, the type of organization they tried to keep in the system?
Dr. Yasser, Hajj is an event engaging more than 2 million people. The government will try to organize the movement and the activities of all these people, but at the same time, there are some responsibility on the shoulder of these people to be responsible at this place. So at this stage, I want to mention that Hajj is a picture of our nation, of our ummah, of our Muslim ummah. So we have to have this picture as clean, as beautiful as possible, and this is maybe we can transfer, if you allow me to transfer to the cons about our reflection on Hajj.
So what I take from you is that the Hajj this year was great and everything was organized, but it wasn't picture perfect, probably.
Yes.
So probably things we should talk about in regards to have the Hajj for people to understand that the government is putting so much effort, so we should incorporate and cooperate with the government for more, to have a more successful Hajj, inshallah, next year.
Yes.
So what recommendations, as you mentioned about cons, what cons are we talking about?
First, Hajj is activity worship for God and therefore for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And, like every kind of worship activity, we have to learn about what we are going to do. So I don't like the idea that people go to Hajj without enough education about Hajj and how what they should do, what they shouldn't do, for example, around the Kaaba in the Mataf, you see some people standing around Maqam Ibrahim alayhi salam. It's very crowded there. Why you stand there? It is not required, it's not recommended to stand there. So you're just causing more crowdness around the Kaaba. You want people to understand Hajj, what is required, what shouldn't be done. So I think education about Hajj before Hajj is a very important activity people should do.
So I remember when I going for the Tawaf al-Qudum,
yes,
which is the first Tawaf you go when you're going to Mecca, is basically when I stepped into the Sahin, they call it the Sahin, where the Kaaba is, and I think I remember people were sitting down on the floor, and I think it was like between Maghrib and Isha time. This was on the 7th day of the Hijjah, and I think people were sitting down. They're creating an obstacle on the flow of people going for the Tawaf, because I'm sure that myself and other people who were coming there intentionally to do the Tawaf al-Qudum had difficulties while these people sitting down on the ground.
Haram is a large place. You can sit anywhere. So why you choose that place and you cause this kind of crowdness around Kaaba and.
Okay. Let's reflect on also the cleanliness. Remember, if you remember, while we're going to Arafah, while we're traveling to Arafah, we had a great day. It was one of the most satisfying experiences ever happened in terms of something that you really gain from Arafat, from the day of Arafat. But as soon as we left Arafat, do you remember the trash and the garbage?
Stepping on food and garbage and
rice and everything.
Rice and
the whole street was filled with different types of trash. And I think Arafat is a holy place, even Muzdalifah. These are like holy lands. Could you reflect on that?
I feel sorry about our fellow Muslim here, that we have made this trip to this holy place with all respect and love for this place, and we have to show that. We have to show our high respect to this place.
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited us from cutting the tree or killing a bird or something like that in haram. So why we heard other Muslim by throwing garbage in the street or throwing more food in the street. I think this is something we need to reconsider as Muslims generally. As I said, Hajj is a picture of our nation, so we have to clean this black spot, I can say, from our pictures. Maybe I'm thinking about that. Maybe the distribution of food. Maybe there are more than what we need have been distributed. I think people are getting more than what they need and more than what they want to during the day of Arafat, and that's why maybe they throw the rest in the street. So I think we need maybe to control, maybe do some control over
the types of foods, maybe.
Yes,
I mean, our viewers probably, some of them have been to Hajj this year and some haven't. I mean, we're talking about people who've been to Hajj before, or people who haven't been to Hajj. So we would like to recommend. I mean, there's something it's an outstanding point that you mentioned in regards to the types of food. Basically, most of the foods we had was basically the traditional food in Arabia, which was like rice and meat. And I hope that there were some more like a diet form where it gives you more energy, amounts of potassium, some of the material, the fruits and vegetables. I think this would be regarded highly for your energy, especially you're running all day, you're walking, you're doing different activities. But something to mention, you talked about the nation, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia being organized and organizing this Hajj this year, and they put all the efforts possible to make this Hajj a success. And hopefully this will continue on as the vision of our nation is on Hajj on a yearly basis. As soon as Hajj ends, the higher committee of Hajj starts working day and night to make next Hajj a success. We want to send a message to some of the nations that people come from. And I think where they come from different types of cultures, even though this is a unity of the Ummah, we want to talk about respecting the place. I mean, this is Arafat, or this is Mina you're talking about. Respecting the place, learning how to respect the place before coming here.
Yeah, sure.
I think this is a message we want to send to different people.
Sure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran said, Al-Hajj ashhur ma'lumat, فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. No bad deeds, no bad talks in Hajj. So cleaning the place, keeping the place clean. If you remember when we went to Arafah, it was a very clean area. So, but by the end of the day, it's become very dirty place. So we want to mention to people that you have to have this respect, to show this respect.
Okay.
To the place, and you understand that this place witnessed the work of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companion, and the full Muslim during all these centuries after that. So we have to recognize the importance of this place.
Okay, I mean, you're facing the world now. I mean, there's so many Muslims who will be probably inshallah joining us for Hajj next year. I mean, if you can give them a word of how to be concise. See, Islam talks also about cleanliness. Nadafa min al-iman. Faith has also cleanliness, not just by cleaning your heart, also cleaning your body, cleaning wherever you go, you just clean wherever you've been to. Cleanliness is there. If you can, please recommend some of the recommendations to the nations out there, so when they come for Hajj next year, they would take respect of the place.
I just want to say to my brothers and sisters around the world that Hajj is a pillar of Islam, and you have to learn about it before you come to this holy land. You have to understand what Hajj is. You have to know that this place has witnessed our great Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companion. So you have to feel that. You have to live that. So in order to do that, you have to respect this place, to keep it clean, to keep it beautiful, as you say it. As you see it. The government, the people in Mecca and Medina try their best to maintain the place as accommodative as possible for all Muslims around the world. So you have my brother and sister, to incorporate with them, to help them, to work with them to make it as clean as and beautiful as possible.
Okay. I think we've gone through the pros and cons closely, and this is hopefully we have covered some of the important points, whether it's positive or negative. We also want to talk about something as an important issue. We're talking about Hajj as a unity of the nation, where people come in one dress. They come in. There's nothing that keeps them away from being united, other than that their hearts to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So let's talk about the homogeneous part of people and the reflection of how people were different amongst themselves at the same time during this Hajj.
As I told you before, Hajj, I see Hajj as a picture of our nation. So Hajj is about 7 days. In the first 3 days, from the 7th to the 10th, you see people that they dress the same, simple clothes. They do the same activity. They stand in Arafat at the same time.
Okay.
They perform a prayer at the same time. They go to Tawaf al-Qudum almost at the same time. And after that, the last 3 days, you see that they become some kind of difference, particularly in their clothes, some cultural customs here in Hajj. They have some extended time to perform the Hajj activities, so they don't have to be at the same time at the same place anymore. And I think this is a kind of a signal of how our nation is. We are people of unity. We are people. All Muslims, we are all in front of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, similar and equal, and at the same time we have some cultural differences that we have to accept, we have to recognize in order to maintain our unity.
Okay, let me cut you there. I mean, I like there's a point I just want to clarify. You were talking about generally the nation being united. Did the ihram, which is the white robe that they put on, was that enough for the nation to be united? Were the acts the same for them to be united, or is it more than just the dress and the outlook of the nation?
Dressing the same and acting the same activity at the same time, this is not enough. But this is a signal. This is a signal of how we should be generally in our life, how our strong relation with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala should be, how our commitment to each other, to commitment to be at the same place at the same time for the same purpose should be. I see this dressing and activities as a signal for our minds and our hearts of how we should think about ourselves as a one nation.
Okay. His Eminence Sheikh Ali bin Abdul Rahman al-Hudayfi mentioned today in the khutbah regarding the surviving nation, talking about how to survive the day after, the world after, or death, the hereafter, basically, or the day of resurrection, basically by mentioning some of the points and characteristics of this nation. And I think we want to reflect on that. See, the thing is, coming to Hajj, performing your duties for Hajj, and following the steps of the Prophet ﷺ step by step is highly recommended. But something we want to mention is, again, we want to reflect back to the organization, we want to reflect on having the surviving of the day of Arafah with success. See, the government of Saudi Arabia has provided containers where people should throw their trash and garbage. I want to come back to that point.
Going back to the issue of
this was really annoying when you were, as soon as we left, we prayed Maghrib. We're supposed to pray Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah.
Yes.
But the thing is, at the time we were leaving before Maghrib, walking around the buses, and it was really disturbing when you see such a view. And even though that people would say, see, the government of Saudi Arabia maybe didn't give them enough trash cans, or did not give them the part.
I don't think this is true.
It's really upsetting.
I don't remember in Arafat, but I remember in Mina, over the Jamarat Bridge, you see all these water cans and some garbage on the bridge. But you see this garbage can almost empty.
Yes.
So why you just have to walk a little bit to through, and you know this is not just a courtesy for your fellow Muslim. You know, this is also kind of activities, a worship activity, because you know the Muslim should think of himself and of his deed or her deeds, that all should be kind of a worship activity. You know.
I mean, this is something I would reflect on, that you're respecting Arafat, or respecting Mina as a holy land. Imagine yourself in any of the European nations, or in North America, for instance, and you lived in the States, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for a couple of years. You know how, you know, throwing a can of pop or a can of soda on the street is really, you know, unlawful. I mean, there's something even doesn't even have to get with the law part. Also, yourself as a person,
a bit shameful.
You feel shameful, exactly. I wish that people would have this reflection, the shamefulness. And this is a good word, I think, when I reflect on, to protect our holy cities, to protect Hajj in a more organized form. Even we want to talk about some of the incidents where people also fall into sleeping on the streets sometimes. And I think it's something we want to mention. I mean, this is where we're trying to be honest. And having people sleep on the streets after the day of Arafah is I mean, you find just in front of our group where we're staying, that people started putting their tents just in front of the street, blocking the street, blocking the side curb. I think this was really not a good, healthy thing to be done. Can you reflect on that, please?
Hajj is a pillar of Islam and is obligatory upon people who can do it, who have the ability and the wealth to go to this place and do Hajj the right way.
Okay.
And the problem here, we see that many of our brothers and sisters just go there. They don't have arrangement for their staying in Mecca or in Mina. They stay in the street. I think this is not good,
Okay. And I saw something even really terrible. And I had a professor from another camp at the same location. Almost walked like 2 kilometers down the hill to meet some of the friends there. And while walking down and up the hill, the mountain, those people who were sitting on the side of the street didn't even respect the place. They even used the street as a bathroom. I mean, this is something that reflects. This was really bad. And even the Saudi government, the kids, the men.
There are all these public bathrooms.
Public bathrooms. They provided all the services, and these guys still insist of doing all the natural things in the natural way. And I think this is really annoying. When I was walking around there, even it doesn't give them a shame to do so.
The problem is that something like this one is it's literally prohibited in Islam. Not just as a general rule about respecting the place and cleaning the place. No, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in one hadith, "Ittaqu al-la'inayn," and the translation that be away from cursed or from being cursed by other people when you doing your taking
the call of nature.
Call of nature.
Okay. I mean, what would be the recommendation? I mean, we already touched on different levels here. We touched about the cleanliness. We touched about Hajj organization, the educational part. Let's send a message. I mean, let's make this more let's make it into a point-by-point reflection. Where could we find a solution? Is it more like the governments who have people come over to this nation from different parts of the world, prepare the Muslims there, the Muslim community in each one of those countries in the world, in different continents? How would you, I mean, as an educational foundations professor, how would you reflect that? I mean, this is something maybe we could, provide.
I see Hajj as a social gathering for Muslims around the world, and to be successful is a responsibility of the government who is organizing the place.
Absolutely.
Also the responsibility of scholars to educate people about what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they have to do, what they must not do in the Hajj. and also the responsibility of each individual attending this gathering, this meeting for 7 days or a week or so in this holy land. I think we need to think of Hajj as, you know, as a journey to think of ourselves good, to feel good about ourselves. You know, Islam generally, I think, is a religion to teach people to feel good about themselves, that we have a good relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, strong relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have good relation with other fellow Muslims. So we have to respect that in Hajj, we have to practice that. You know, it's kind of what we call it in education, it's a micro-teaching activities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So governments, before their people could come in to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to perform Hajj, then they should have them educated. This is something we want to
Sure, yeah, I
think maybe have a multimedia movie, maybe a website on the internet.
You know, I like the
gives them
idea that
recommendation.
I heard that some countries and some airlines they commit themselves to this educational programs for people before come to Hajj. You know, I heard that in some countries, maybe in Malaysia or something like that, they have this education program that people who want to attend Hajj, they have to attend this program and, you know, kind of maybe getting a certificate or something like that. They learn about Hajj, they learn about this holy place, what they have to do, what they should avoid during these days, during this trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I think educational educational program, I think, is a very important policy that countries, civil society organizations in Muslim countries should think about and consider implementation.
I would like to thank you, Dr. Hussam, for joining us here in the studio of Haram in Medina, and I would like to confirm on our director, Mr. Hamza Qandil, and as we have enjoyed Hajj, alhamdulillah, we already passed through nice days. Wish all the Muslim Ummah the best of this world and the hereafter, and would like to thank Dr. Hussam for joining us, and we wish you all the best for this year, and hopefully we have another Hajj next year, which will be more successful.
Maybe after 5 days, after 5 years.
Inshallah. Okay. Hope inshallah we all hope you all the best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank you.